Hi everyone and welcome to StudioJake. I am the host of this vidcast, Jacob Airy. I talk about things such as anime, comic books, film, television, novels, anything related to pop culture. And I have a fun time doing it, by the way. Be sure to hit that like button, share this video out, and whatever platform you're on, I would appreciate it if you would subscribe. Okay, so we're going to dive into the story at hand. And yesterday, I did sort of a reaction to the announced slate for DC Studios, which is now being run by James Gunn and a lackey named Peter Safran. I want to apologize if you hear my dog whine or bark or whatever. He does it at random times and it's really hard to edit, so I'm just going to let it be. But anyway, so there are a couple of red flags. First of all, it seems like he's going to be using a lot of material that isn't really that popular, that it seems that he wants to keep on, convicted criminal Ezra Miller as the Flash while firing actors like Henry Cavill or Gal Gadot. Now, he's saying Henry Cavill wasn't fired, he just wasn't casted in his upcoming Superman film, Superman Legacy. I think that's bull malarkey. I think that James Gunn and Peter Safran and David Zaslav, who is the CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery, I think the three of them conspired to have Henry Cavill removed because they want to move on from the Snyderverse. I don't really blame them, but all they had to do for that is to use The Flash as a reboot. They even said that once people see The Flash, it's going to be the greatest superhero movie of all time. Definitely another red flag. Hopefully, they announced a Supergirl movie. And at first, I didn't get the full picture of what they were talking about when they meant Supergirl. I said, I hope it's going to be a different direction than the planned one for HBO Max. Indeed, it is. However, that in and of itself is going to be a red flag. Why is that? Because James Gunn has brought into DC films probably one of the worst comic book writers of all time, and that is Tom King. Now, he's not just a bad comic book writer. He's also not a very great person. He lied about an incident where, it was this whole thing during the restrictions where people were having to, wear those face diapers that everyone was complying with, and he claimed that someone in a Rorschach face diaper approached him and they had like an altercation, and then when the security had to escort the guy out, and then it turned out that that was totally made up. I think Comics Perch reached out to the venue and to the staff of the Comic-Con, and they all denied that anything happened. I actually called Tom King out on this and called him a liar. I said, "You're making this story up. This isn't true." And he promptly blocked me. So no harm, no foul there. I'm a better person since I've stopped seeing his tweets. That's just reality. And this is the guy that James Gunn is going to bring on to bring us Supergirl. This is coming from Bounding into Comics from John Trent. By the way, I love Bounding into Comics. They have really great news people who stay on top of things like film, manga, television, gaming even. I'm not a big gamer myself. I'm sort of a normie when it comes to gaming. But I can go to them when they have news of it. So it says James Gunn's DC slate features Tom King as one of the chief architects, a massive red flag for any DC fan. And then it says reading from the story, while detailing an upcoming Supergirl film titled Supergirl Wonder of Tomorrow, Gunn relayed to DC.com, this is based on Tom King and Bilquis Evely's wonderful comic. Tom has been of the architects of this entire situation. Gunn elaborate. He's one of the guys in the rooms with us, along with 4 or 5 others. I love his take on the characters. He just turns them slightly. He turns them slightly to be something very unique. Oh my gosh. He goes on to say, in our story, we have Superman who was sent to Earth and raised by incredibly loving parents. Kara was on Krypton. She was on a piece of Krypton that drifted away from the planet, and she lived there for the first 14 years of her life in a horrible situation where she watched everyone around her die. So she's a much harsher and more bleeped up version of Supergirl than you've been used to thus far. And yeah, this is kind of what Tom King does. So I am of the opinion that Tom King's original run of Batman, when he first started, it was actually off to a good start. I know a lot of people don't like the War of Jokes and Riddles. I actually enjoyed it. I thought it was a hilarious comeback for Kite Man. But then, as it got closer to the wedding between Batman and Catwoman, and then it never happened. Now, Tom King claims that DC Comics did this, that they didn't want Batman and Catwoman to get married, and that's why they allowed him to do the Batman Catwoman series, which was even more terrible. Um, Basically, he was originally supposed to do 100 issues. The sales were so bad for Batman, which is DC Comics' bestseller, that they actually took him off and replaced him with James Tynion, who is normally a good comic book writer, but because he was left with the minutia of Tom King turning Batman into this soap opera genre, where he's like always afraid and he has to be comforted by other people, by younger, less experienced superheroes. They made him a total jerk during the Heroes in Crisis, which here one thing that Tom King did, he wrote the Heroes in Crisis, which a lot of people thought was going to be like a reboot, because DC Comics, they always call the reboots Crisis. Now it's Metal, but originally it was Crisis. So you had the Crisis on Infinite Earths, the Infinite Crisis, the Final Crisis, and so on. So everyone thought that this was going to be a new reboot, but it was so terrible and and it was rejected by the fans so much. DC Comics backtracked and was like, no, it's not a reboot, it's a standalone story. In that story, Wally West becomes a murderer. Now, some people might say, "Oh, but it was an accident." No, he intentionally did a character assassination of Batman, of Supergirl, of Wally West, who is by far the best Flash sidekick, and he was the one most worthy to become the Flash. Now, I've changed over time on this. I don't agree with legacy characters passing their mantle. I think that the sidekicks now should get their own identities, or maybe the identity of a hero that hasn't been used in a long time. So, for instance, Dick Grayson became Nightwing because of a story that was told to him about Superman, or from Superman, which was from a Kryptonian legend. That's where the name Nightwing came from. So I'm okay with that, but I don't think Dick Grayson should be Batman. I don't think Jason Todd should be Batman. I don't think Tim Drake should be Batman. I don't think Kate Kane should be Batman. She's great as Batwoman, but she shouldn't be like a Batman character. Certainly not Damian Wayne. That character had so much potential and they squandered it. It was so ridiculous and stupid. And Tom King, again, was a part of that. And it was so bad that James Tynion's run immediately after Tom King was a disaster, because he had to keep going. DC didn't want him to retcon the changes, even though they were rejected by the fans. So he had to keep that going. And in my opinion, it kind of ruined his reputation as a writer as well. And Tom King does this. He turned the Phantasm in his Batman Catwoman series from this character that had like a lot of depth, a lot of intrigue, into just like another random ex-girlfriend of Batman who, of course, has a problem with the Joker, and we can't have anything original here. He's probably one of the worst people to take over, to become in. Now, say what you want to. I know that a lot of Snyderverse fans are going to be mad at me for saying this. That's because they don't know the history of comics. Jeff Johns was actually the right choice to oversee the story development at DC Films. He is a fantastic writer. He's done incredible work such as Batman 3 Jokers, which was probably that and Batman 1 Dark Knight were probably the last good Batman series to come from DC Comics. But he got ousted because he ran afoul of the Snyderverse people, and so they brought on Walter Hamada, who just wanted to do a whole bunch of gender and race swaps with the film characters. And of course, fans are kind of tired of that. Yeah, we get it. You have one note Hollywood, and that's to take beloved characters and just throw them in for your diversity quotas. It's absolutely ridiculous. And this is no different. Tom King took a wonderful character who loved being a superhero in Supergirl and changed her into this depressed, jaded, bitter, almost anti-hero, and it reeked of creative bankruptcy. He is not someone that I would trust with anyone. Now, I know he also has a few people who don't like him for what he did with Guy Gardner, Green Lantern. He turned him from, again, Greg Gardner was always kind of a rogue. That's why he was rejected as a Green Lantern for a while. For a while, he became a Dark Star, which is kind of a rival organization to the Green Lanterns, and he even had a Sinestro Corps ring for a while. So he was always kind of a rogue anti-hero, not steeped in the Green Lantern ideology of being space cops, essentially. And he turned him into a predator who gets murdered, basically. And it's just ridiculous. And of course, the worst thing is King's attack on Jai Lee. So Jai Lee is friends with Ethan Van Sciver, who, of course, does Cyberfrog. He's part of the Comicscape movement. And Jai Lee did an alternative, a variant cover for one of Ethan Van Sciver's works. And Tom King just attacked him for it. For daring, and called Comicsgate a hate group. And look, there's weirdos in every movement. Comicsgate just wants DC Comics and Marvel Comics to return to, not attacking them as fans. But no, anything, we can't have that. They want to attack their audience like Tom King did. And it was just gross and embarrassing. And this is the guy that James Gunn has tapped to be one of the people in the rooms. And this is another red flag for the DC films for me. I just can't imagine a world where Tom King is going to deliver what the fans want. I mean, there's names like Chuck Dixon, Mike Barron, all these amazing writers who have done incredible works, but they're being tossed by the wayside because, Tom King, he says the right things and he attacks Asian artists just because they do a variant cover for an indie comic. And I just think that is incredibly terrible. I hate to say it, but I think that DC Comics is going to be affected negatively by these films, because we saw this happen with Marvel Comics, right? So Marvel Comics, they bring in the MCU, but the powers that be before kind of Disney took over everything, Marvel Studios and Marvel Comics, Marvel Entertainment there was like that civil war. So the Marvel Comics, they were pursuing, the diversity quotas, the equity nonsense, all that sort of stuff. So they couldn't have the Avengers be like they were in the MCU. So that was during that whole Marvel Now nonsense that, where a lot of garbage happened. And now it looks like DC Films is doing the same thing. DC Comics post Heroes in Crisis has become virtually unreadable. Every once in a while, I'll find a good nugget like Three Jokers or Batman: The Adventures Continue or One Dark Knight or something like that, but it's usually brought in with a guest writer or someone who has a lot of experience. I don't get why they didn't bring in, like I said, I mentioned Chuck Dixon or Mike Barron or Grant Morrison to help with some of this stuff, who have good track records, as opposed to someone like Tom King, who almost got Batman canceled, and for sure his run was soundly rejected by the fans. This just goes to show me, people keep saying, oh, James Gunn, give him a chance. No, I don't know him the benefit of the doubt. I certainly don't. And especially with all these red flags coming up, him hiring the person who turned Wally West into a murderer, I'm not going to give James Gunn the benefit of the doubt. He has to prove it to me. I am the consumer, And if I'm going to buy his product, it better not be cow manure. That's all I'm going to say on the matter, but this is definitely a bad sign. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you'll give it a thumbs up, that you'll leave me a comment and tell me what you think, that you'll share it out with your friends, and of course, consider subscribing to StudioJake. I cover all kinds of nerd and pop culture topics, including film, television, anime, comic books, and so much more. I hope that you'll also head over to my main website, StudioJakeMedia.com, where I have even more news, views, and commentary. Also, if you'd like to support the channel, head over to my locals page. That's studiojakemedia.locals.com. It's the best way to support me. I'm trying to build a little community there. I have exclusive reviews and articles, so definitely head over there and check it out. And I'll see you next time right here on Studio Jake.